Chapter 1625. 7 years, Gu Meng Meng had been the beast deity for a full 7 years. The messenger of the beast deity she chose was better than her in every aspect. She was honest with her feelings and never wavered like Gu Meng Meng. She had mated with 4 males and truly controlled the land, sea, and air forces, becoming the first messenger of the beast deity to mate with the sea tribe out of the 3 messengers of the beast deity. But, no matter what, she could not escape the heart-wrenching moment when the doors of time and space opened. Gu Meng Meng stood behind her and held her shoulders with both hands. She looked at the open doors of time and space from the side of her ear and said to her, "You have watched Wolf Man before, I don't need to tell you. If you go through this door now, the television series that you have been watching during this period of time will become your memory. You will live the blissful life that Awaken has created for you in that world, and everything you have experienced in the beast world will gradually disappear like a dream." On the other hand, the girl smiled at Awaken with tears in her eyes and asked, "Are you afraid?" Awaken shook his head gently and firmly and said, "For you, I am not afraid of anything. I have already promised to be your hero, why would I change my mind at the last minute?" The girl replied with a thick nasal voice, "Yeah." She hummed and said, "After 1,000 years, I will make crystal pork knuckle, duck neck in soy sauce, bear paw in broth and roasted pig's feet for you." "All right." Awaken pulled his lips into a smile and said in a heroic and tragic manner, "You promised, I will wait to eat your crystal pork knuckle, duck neck in soy sauce, bear paw in broth and roasted pig's feet." That door slowly closed. Gu Meng Meng's eyes still reddened after seeing such a scene after 1,000 years. Only when Awaken and the door disappeared did the girl suddenly pounce into Gu Meng Meng's arms and burst into tears. She was far from being as strong as she thought she was. Even if she knew that she could meet Awaken again after 1,000 years, her heart still ached when she saw Awaken being torn apart in front of her. The girl's collar was pulled by someone, and before she could react, she was flung into the air as though she had lost her balance. Gu Meng Meng face-bombed. That little bit of melancholy was completely destroyed by the black face in front of her. "Tu Meng, I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. You've grown a lot bolder, huh? You know that I'm coming back today, yet you want to hug someone else in front of me?" The black-faced deity standing in front of Gu Meng Meng was none other than Snake. He was truly aggrieved. After muddling through 1,000 years, he finally saw her again with great difficulty, but what was the result? Not only did she not come up to him to give him a hug and say a few soft words to tell him how much she missed him, she even hugged that dirty female with tears and snot all over her face. Did he really think he was dead? If it was in the past, Gu Meng Meng might have argued with Snake, but now, she did not want to go against him at all. He had suffered enough, she did not want him to suffer any more. Pouncing into Snake's arms, Gu Meng Meng rubbed her little face against his chest, feeling his ice-cold body temperature. This touch, which used to terrify her, now made her feel blissful. "Ah, Kun, welcome back. I missed you so much." Chapter 1626. Tightening his arms, Snake looked at Gu Meng Meng and did not speak for a long time. He only kissed her deeply on the lips. This was a kiss that had been brewing for 1,000 years. It contained 2 lifetimes of unattainable desires and 2 lifetimes of separation. Finally, he could truly embrace a complete and real her and never let go again. Apart from Snake and Gu Meng Meng, no one else could understand how lingering this kiss was. Others could only see them hugging and kissing, with smiles on the corners of their lips and sparkles of happiness in their eyes. Any description seemed so pale and shallow in front of this kiss, not even worth mentioning. The kiss that was filled with love and lust lasted for a long time. It was so long that it was enough to express the yearning of 1,000 years. Snake then reluctantly let go of her. The corners of his lips curled up as he smiled. "Tu Meng, I am back." For the past 1,000 years, he had so many things he wanted to say to her. But when he looked at her, he could not utter a single word. In that dream realm, he learned many sweet nothings, but none of them were enough to express his feelings for Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Snake's waist and nodded. "This time, you are not allowed to leave me again." "All right." Snake lowered his head and planted a kiss on Gu Meng Meng's forehead. It was a vow. From today onwards, he would only reply to her requests with one word, "All right." Snake held Gu Meng Meng's hand and took out a ring from somewhere. He then firmly put it on the ring finger of Gu Meng Meng's left hand. Looking at the ring with a diamond on it, Snake's gaze was filled with tenderness. His right hand circled around Gu Meng Meng's shoulder and opened his palm in front of her. There was a male snake ring with a piece missing. He said, "People say that husband and wife are of one heart, but the heart is not as important as the gallbladder for a snake. So, I am giving my gallbladder to you. If you are alive, I will live. If you are dead, I will die." Gu Meng Meng tiptoed and kissed Snake's lips. It was not romantic and even carried a tinge of punishment. Biting the corner of his lips, she then put down her heel. "Seeing you die twice for me, I am still traumatized by your death. You are not allowed to mention anything about life or death in the future. Otherwise, I will cry for you. Yes, cry for you to see." Tears was Gu Meng Meng's killer move. Although she rarely used it, it was very powerful and there was not a single male in the family who was not afraid of it. But, he was Snake. Frowning, Snake pinched Gu Meng Meng's little face, squeezing her mouth into a fish's mouth. "Threatening me? If you dare to cry, I'll kill that little wolf." Gu Meng Meng really wanted to say, "Elvis is also a beast king now, you probably won't be able to kill him," but she was afraid that if she said that, Snake would really go all out to fight Elvis. Sigh, domestic violence is not desirable. Question: The men in my family are too hot-tempered. Their strength is at the peak. If they can fight, they will never quarrel. As a weak little woman, I feel a little sad. What should I do? It's urgent, I'm waiting online." Looking up, Gu Meng Meng's words lingered in her stomach for a few rounds before finally becoming a soft sentence. "You're not allowed to bully me. K.O. Snake's HP bar was empty. It was as if an arrow had pierced through his ribs and pierced right into his chest. Chapter 1627. Gu Meng Meng knew that it was useless to use force on Snake, so she could only use the soft approach. He would fall for it. Seeing how Snake wanted to save face but could not do anything to her, Gu Meng Meng's mood soared. She tiptoed and kissed Snake's chin again, before giggling. Snake's face brightened because of Gu Meng Meng's fawning, so he turned to the side and said, "I brought your guardian beast back too." Gu Meng Meng's body stiffened and the smile on her face froze instantly. Her big eyes quickly became misty and she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand before she dared to turn her head to look at the direction Snake was pointing at. "Gregory." Gu Meng Meng choked and called out his name. Gregory smiled gently and stood on the spot without moving closer. He just looked at Gu Meng Meng affectionately and said, "I promised you that I would come back and I did it." Gu Meng Meng wanted to hug Gregory but her waist was still in Snake's hands and she did not dare to be rash. So she sneaked a glance at Snake. Snake's expression did not look too good but he did not flare up. He just said coldly, "He protected my real body for 1,000 years before I could come back to see you safely. Although it was aggrieved, I still owe him so I brought him back. But I am warning you, do not have any thoughts that you should not have. If I find out." Snake did not finish his sentence and just narrowed his eyes, emitting a dangerous aura from his entire body. Before she could explain herself, Gregory beat her to it and said, "I'm just a guardian beast, I'm not greedy enough to want more, so you don't have to be so nervous, I can't snatch away your love." Gu Meng Meng shrunk her neck timidly and wanted to explain herself. Snake snorted in disdain and said, "Snatch away my love. What a big tone you have, but don't worry, I will not allow such a thing to happen. If you had mated with Tumang before me, or if your mark is closer to her heart than mine, I will definitely let you die 100 times worse than what you did 1,000 years ago." Gu Meng Meng could not keep up with his pace. She looked at Snake, then at Gregory, and then at Snake again in a daze. So, what Snake meant by shouldn't have thoughts was to let Gregory take over before him. She thought he would say that all males other than him were wild men and that she was not allowed to touch them anymore. "What are you looking at?" Snake looked down at Gu Meng Meng and asked. Gu Meng Meng laughed dryly and said, "Nothing much, I just feel that your temper is much better than before." Snake hugged Gu Meng Meng lightly and said, "I have wasted 2 lifetimes to exchange for this person, how can I not treasure her? As long as you're doing well, I'm fine." With that, Snake pushed Gu Meng Meng lightly, sending her into Gregory's arms. Gregory opened his arms wide and stood at the same spot without moving at all. He caught Gu Meng Meng steadily and hugged her deeply, saying, "I don't have the right to snatch you from his arms, so I can only stand here and wait for you. Thank you for coming into my arms. Thank you, for not forgetting me." Gu Meng Meng did not say anything. She just used both hands to gently caress Gregory's arms, pursing her lips and not saying a word. Gregory knew what she was thinking about, so he whispered into her ear, "The weather is nice today. Do you want me to fulfill the promise I made to you previously?" Gu Meng Meng looked up at Gregory with anticipation in her eyes. Chapter 1628. Gregory transformed into a half-orc and let Gu Meng Meng lie on his back. He moved his shoulder blades slightly as a warm-up before spreading his wings and soaring into the sky with Gu Meng Meng on his back. He had not flown for 1,000 years, but his bird-like nature made him never forget how to soar. Gu Meng Meng cheered excitedly on Gregory's back. This was not the first time she was being carried by Gregory. She even had a pair of wings for a short period of time and had flown a few times herself. But this time, it was the most blissful experience she had ever had. A gust of wind blew past her face, making Gu Meng Meng's eyes dry up. Yes, it was because her eyes were dry that she was tearing up. It was not because she was sentimental. It was not. The grassland that stretched as far as the eye could see was not as majestic as Moda Mountain, but it had a different kind of charm. Snake had transformed into his original form and was already fighting with Elvis. The battle between the 2 beast kings looked dangerous, but neither of them wanted to kill the other. After all, they could not bear to see the little person flying in the sky shed tears. Leah swayed his large tail as he sat on the back of the 2-seater chair. He stepped on the armrest lazily and at ease. He would give Snake pointers at one moment and give Elvis a few reminders at the next. He was the classic type of spectator who did not mind the matter getting bigger and was afraid that their fight was not exciting enough. The girl who was originally crying miserably stood at a distance and looked at the 3 legendary beast kings. Initially, her emotions of wanting to cry were forcefully dispersed by them. She was a little dazed and suddenly felt that she could not differentiate between reality and fantasy. She really, just because he finished reading a novel, he transmigrated to this world. Initially, she felt her heart ache because Gu Meng Meng did not value Elvis highly because of Lee's appearance. When Nina's incident happened, she scolded herself for being blind back then and not realizing that Leah was a scumbag. But while scolding him, she also left a message for the author because her heart ached for that white fox's pitiful appearance. Because of Snake's death, she cried a lot, and when she denounced the author, she felt as though she was grinding her teeth. When Gregory broke his wings and was blinded, her heart was tugged at again. At that time, she really wanted to crawl out from the screen and strangle the author to death. But when she saw the ending, the author asked her for help, saying that Snake was really important to her and that she had to save him and Gregory. She agreed in a moment of impulse. She did not even think about it herself. At that time, she only muttered, "If I could really transmigrate to the beast world, I would definitely save Snake and Gregory." Then, he actually transmigrated. This was not in line with the core values of socialism, and it happened to him just like that. Looking at the snake and wolf fighting, the white fox who was watching the commotion and stirring up trouble, and Gregory who was flying in the sky, the girl wiped away the tears on her face, raised her head and shouted, "Susu, I'm going back first. My man is still waiting for me." The girl on Gregory's back peeked out her little head and waved at her through Gregory's shoulder. "That novel ended 7 years ago, and you're still calling me Susu." The girl smiled brightly and said, "Do you think that everything will be fine after 7 years? You abducted me to the beast world, don't you need to take responsibility? Let me tell you, I'm going to depend on you for the rest of my life. You will always be my Susu." Gu Meng Meng chuckled and nodded. "All right, I will always be your Susu." Aside from the topic, after accompanying Susu for over 200 days, we finally welcome the ending of this novel. I wonder if my darlings are satisfied with this ending. The process was a little complicated, but the outcome was ultimately good. If any of my darlings is willing to transmigrate to the beast world and continue writing chapters, you can leave a long comment on the comments section or send a private message to Susu through the fan group. Outstanding works with a length of 1,000 words and above would be published by Susu in the form of a free novel in the external chapters, with the reader's name indicated. But to avoid copyright infringement, my darlings must not copy other people's novels. Once discovered, it will be deleted immediately. Lastly, please advertise Susu's new novel, Warm Thoughts on a Pillow, Don't Stop Taking the CEO's Medication. Chapter 1629. Traversing the Doors of Time and Space. This option was just a smokescreen from the start. Standing at the entrance of S University, Gu Meng Meng was still in a daze. Her little reader had first replaced her as the messenger of the beast deity, then with Oriton's disappearance, she had replaced her as the new beast deity. Then, Gu Meng Meng was suddenly at a loss. Not the messenger of the beast deity, not the beast deity, then, who should Gu Meng Meng be? What should she do? Return to Saint Nazaire. But to her, 3 years and 1,000 days were 1,000 earth-shattering years in the beast world. How could she, the messenger of the beast deity who had been dead for 1,000 years, return? Of course, no one could stop her if she wanted to return. After all, a family of 5 and 3 beast kings was enough to turn the beast world upside down. But how could she return to face everything that had changed? Barit, who said he wanted to guard a place for her to return to, had long turned into ashes, unable to break through the 3rd-level boundary. He said his life was in the hands of one person, and other than that person, he would not belong to anyone else. Although the 16 valued females were well taken care of, there was a limit to their beast lives. Without the powers of a beast king, they could not be immortal like Gu Meng Meng. Since ancient times, beauties were like heroes, not allowed to see their hair turn white. The 16 golden hairpins who had once surrounded her, the 16 beauties who made her feel proud wherever she went, had gradually faded away with the passage of time. How could she not feel sorry for them? She could not return, not because someone was stopping her, but because Gu Meng Meng herself could not overcome the barrier in her heart. Therefore, she muddle-headedly stayed in her beast deity illusion for a long period of time. The question she repeatedly pondered was, who am I? Where am I? What should I do? Snake curled his tail and wrapped Gu Meng Meng into his arms, saying, "If you are bored, go back to the modern world." Gu Meng Meng was taken aback, tilting her head to look at Snake. Her eyes were full of excitement, but also full of doubt, as if she did not understand Snake's meaning and was waiting for him to explain. Snake's lips curled up, saying, "The last time my parents supported you at the press conference, you suddenly cried and I carried you away. Time there is still at the same place. Do you want to go back and finish acting that overbearing senior falls in love with me? Since you know it's all fake, why do you have to lie to yourself?" Gu Meng Meng's spirit wilted and the light in her eyes dimmed. But Snake smiled and said, "Truth can be false and falsehood can also be true. This world has always been like this." Everyone said that Zhuang Zhou dreamed of a butterfly, but who could guarantee that it was not a butterfly dreaming of Zhuang Zhou? Anyway, he had nothing to do, so he could just treat it as a pastime. Besides, halfway through his sentence, Snake planted a human kiss on Gu Mingming's forehead. He said in a deep and calm tone, "I promised to give you a complete family, so I must do it. Regardless of whether other things are true or false, we who are by your side are true." That's enough, isn't it? It was obvious that after experiencing the baptism of the modern world, Snake knew how to communicate with females better than Elvis, Leah, or anyone else in the beast world. He was no longer the awkward Snake King who had kicked little shit up a tree. Gu Mingming's lips curled. Yeah, so what if the illusion was fake? Elvis, Leah, Grace, and Snake, who were by her side, were real. That was enough. What about you? What do you say? Are you willing to act out a show with me? Gu Mengmeng asked. Digression. She did not want to write the digression, but the little babies kept saying that the overbearing senior did not see the ending and kept thinking about it. So Susu picked up her pen again and continued writing. Chapter 1630. Elvis walked forward and scooped Gu Mengmeng out of Snake's arms. "I will always listen to Xiao Meng." Gu Mengmeng nodded. Since Elvis was acting like the first partner, Leah naturally could not bully him as a senior. Hence, he leaned into Gu Mingming's arms in his usual flirtatious manner. "That place is Snake's home ground. Gu Mengmeng, you have to protect me and not let Snake bully me like he did in the Snake King Valley. My little heart is thumping non-stop. I'm scared and excited at the same time." Gu Mengmeng, touch me. This coquettish fox was up to his old tricks again. Just look at his eyes. Without even opening his mouth, Snake could read the hidden meaning in his words. See, Gu Mingming's heart is still on our side. But unfortunately, he could no longer bear to kill this coquettish fox who kept provoking him for no reason. After all, they were a family. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng was a treasure that he had exchanged for after dying twice in the most tragic way. He would rather turn his bones into ashes than let her frown again. So, even if this coquettish fox could ascend to the heavens, he could only whip him down with his tail. He could not whip him to death. Elvis and Leah both expressed their stance. Gu Mingming's gaze naturally landed on Gregory. Gregory's status in this family was rather special and awkward. He was not Gu Mingming's partner, but a guardian beast. But her partners were all beast kings. Was it his turn to protect her? But what could he do? Even if it was awkward, even if it was difficult, he still wanted to stay by her side and never leave her side. Smiling, Gregory was like a celestial being who stayed on the mountain for a long time. His eyes were as deep as an ancient spring. He opened his mouth and said calmly, "Wherever baby Meng is, I will be there." The result of everyone passing was that Snake brought them back to the time when they left the last time. Elvis, Leah and Gregory could not appear in Z country without identification cards. So, they could only go to F country with Snake's arrangements. Snake's family was the royal family there. Especially in the recent 10 over years, under Snake's control, the family became stronger day by day. It was too easy for such a family to get a few identification cards. Moreover, Elvis and the rest looked more European. If they insisted that they were from Z country, it would be even more out of place. However, among the 3 people who were arranged to go to country F, the first one who could come to country Z was not the 2 beast kings, but the guardian beast, Gregory. His identity was simple. He was the personal bodyguard Snake had arranged for Gu Mengmeng. Yeah, because the newly appointed CEO of Monster Company, Snake's pampered girlfriend, was locked in the toilet during the press conference and drenched with a basin of water, Snake's parents unanimously agreed that Gu Mengmeng needed a personal bodyguard. Snakel was speechless and kept telling himself, Xiao Meng needs a pair of parents, this is prepared for Xiao Meng. I can't kill them, I can't kill them, I can't kill them. In the end, Snake could only choose Gregory, who had the lowest presence and had spent the most time with him. After all, to Gu Meng Meng, it was over 1,000 days and nights, but to him, he had really been burning in the lava of Moda Mountain for 1,000 years. And in these 1,000 years, it was this birdman who broke his own wings and sacrificed his life to the mountain, so that he could have the chance to return to Gu Mingming's side. Chapter 1631. So, the final outcome was that Snake's parents had unilaterally announced that Gu Meng Meng was the future daughter-in-law of their family. Then, with a bunch of extremely profound and high-class English that they could not understand even though their English had obviously passed the 4th or 6th level, they returned to the country in a high-profile manner. That speech was summed up by Snake in one sentence: Gu Meng Meng is our family's daughter-in-law. Whoever touches her will be challenging the F country's royal family, causing a diplomatic dispute between the two countries. As a result, Gu Meng Meng became the hottest new rich overnight. But the amazing thing was, no one knew who the F country's prince who had a marriage agreement with Gu Meng Meng was. Snake was still a gigolo who was kept by Gu Meng Meng. So, Gu Meng Meng, who was surrounded by the crowd at the entrance of S University, was dumbfounded. How should she put it? Her relationship with her husband did not seem to be legal in the modern world. But after being husband and wife for thousands of years, they were suddenly framed by the modern world's marriage values. She, as an authentic modern person, suddenly reverted back to the old ways, and felt like she was not acclimatized. She could almost guess what kind of melodramatic drama the students were imagining. It must be that the F country's prince found out that Gu Meng Meng had kept Snake, the gigolo, in the country and was heartbroken. So, he secretly left C country and returned to F country to heal his emotional wounds. But before he left, he was worried about Gu Mingming's safety, afraid that she would be deceived by Snake, the gigolo. So, he left his confidant Gregory by Gu Mingming's side as a bodyguard, to help this prince who had the Horkan Plains above his head look after his wife. Just look at Gregory's strong aura, his burly figure, his handsome looks. TSK TSK TSK, a strong scent of abstinence wafted over, it really made one's heart flutter. Just look, he and Snake were standing on Gu Mingming's left and right. Their gazes were like sparks, and one could smell the burning scent even from a distance away. Do you want to eat at home or at the canteen? Snake asked. Gu Meng Meng replied, let's eat at home and help Gregory learn the way. Gregory replied, all right. I'll listen to you. Snake gave in unconditionally. Crack crack, his knees shattered. What was going on? Wasn't it supposed to be a battle of swords drawn and bows drawn, a battle between a loyal dog's heart and a senior's lover? Why did it suddenly become harmonious? It was said that the road of love had always been narrow. It was just right for two people, but it was destined to be bumpy with one more person, hiss. But why did it look like the three of them were walking quite widely? One on the left and one on the right, protecting the petite girl in the middle. Their coordination was too good. Of course, they did not know that if Gu Mingming's entire family was present, the scene would be even more shocking. Gu Meng Meng had lessons in the morning, which meant that Snake also had lessons in the morning. Because he had voluntarily applied to the school to repeat a year and transfer to the same grade and specialization as Gu Meng Meng, strictly speaking, he was no longer Gu Mingming's senior. Yes, he was Gu Mingming's legitimate husband. The mark was on his heart. That was a place that was inconvenient for others to see. It was not as conspicuous as the wolf on her collarbone and the fox on her ears, but it made Snake feel deeply that what was the point of dying twice for her? If that kind of situation happened again, he did not mind dying a third time, a fourth time to protect her. Even if each death was more tragic than the one before, and each death was more painful than the one before, he would gladly endure it. As long as she was well, he would do anything. Aside from the topic, Previously, you kept asking me why Elvis's mark was not on his heart. Why was Lee's mark not on his heart? Now do you know why? Chapter 1632. Gu Mingming's grades were below average and she had to work a few jobs a day. In the past, she would usually fall asleep in class, especially when the old professor rambled on and on. His tone and frequency were more effective than hypnosis. But this time, Gu Mengmeng was so excited that she could not fall asleep. This class was about labor relations and management. The old professor was analyzing the labor dispute case of a certain cartoon company in 2008 due to job hopping. He then explained the importance of labor contract management. To be honest, Gu Mengmeng was still not paying attention to what the old professor was saying. Her pair of big eyes were looking around the entire classroom, and every detail made her feel pleasantly surprised. Actually, before transmigrating, she had never observed a classroom in such detail. What was there to see about something she was used to? But after going to the beast world and coming back, Gu Mengmeng felt a sense of familiarity even from the purple clay cup the old professor was using to drink water. The student scribbles on the blackboard, the silk banner hanging on the wall, the slogan, 5 stresses and 4 beauties, on the blackboard, and the old professor's cursive handwriting that was comparable to an old Chinese doctor's prescription. During roll call, there was a female student who used a book to cover her face and changed her voice to call out for the entire dorm. There was a male student who was sleeping soundly on the table. There was a young couple who was sitting diagonally with a wronged expression, and a young couple who was looking at each other with deep love and regret, thinking that they were filming a music video. There was also an ambiguous partner who was sitting next to each other, but pretended not to know each other, but was surrounded by bonus bubbles. University life was so rich. Why did she not realize it in the past? At that time, she could only try her best to survive. How would she have the time to realize all these? He pinched Gu Mingming's little hand. Gu Mengmeng then regained her senses and looked at Snake. That momentary smile dazzled Snake's eyes, and the depression that he had initially felt also dissipated into thin air. What's wrong? Gu Mengmeng asked. Snake wanted to put on a cold face, but he could not do so in front of Gu Mengmeng. The corners of his lips had already betrayed him. Every time he saw Gu Mengmeng, he would unknowingly smile and could not pull it back. As if he had accepted his fate, Snake's tone was unbelievably soft. He no longer had any of the awe-inspiring aura of the Snake King who killed decisively in the past. Right now, he was completely a man who fell in love with his wife. All the tenderness in the world was concentrated on the little person in front of him. You haven't looked at me since this morning. Elvis and Leah aren't around, so I have to fight for attention with this lousy school now. Gu Mengmeng pinched her nose and said exaggeratedly, so sour. My teeth are about to fall off. You still dare to laugh at me? Snake frowned, but his eyes were filled with doting and indulgent smiles. Gu Mengmeng looked at the old professor who was still explaining the specific details of different labor contracts and gestured a shoot gesture. She whispered, we're in class, don't disturb others. Be quiet and be good, MMM. Snake gritted his teeth. Obediently. She actually asked him to be obedient? He was the great Lord Snake, the supreme Snake King in the beast world, the most honorable prince in the modern era, the powerful CEO. She actually asked him to be obedient? What was even more hateful was that after she said that, he actually really obediently shut his mouth. Aside from the topic, well, the draft for the new article is still in storage. The speed of the new article cannot be as fast as before, 9,000 a day. The editor meant that 2,000 a day would be enough for me to slowly increase it. But 2,000, even if the editor had the cheek to say that, I would be too embarrassed to agree. So let's temporarily set it at 4,000 a day. If Susu's time permits, she can update a little more babies, you can understand me, right? Chapter 1633. Looking at Snake's conflicted expression, Gu Mengmeng smiled slyly. He was just too adorable. Yeah, if Snake knew that Gu Mengmeng used the word adorable to describe him, he might really fly into a rage. But what could he do? He was just adorable. That unsmiling and aloof Prince Charming, Lord Snake, who studied in S University for a year and was treated as a mute and did not speak a single word to his classmates, was now staring with his eyes wide open, as if he had suffered a loss but had nowhere to vent his anger. It was a perfect match for the trending emoticon "I feel bitter in my heart, but I won't say it." This contrast, if it wasn't adorable, what was it? Using the book to cover her face, Gu Mengmeng pecked Snake's cheek as if she was deceiving herself. Then, she returned to her original position, smiling mischievously at Snake. This kiss brightened up Snake's entire expression. How could he be in a bad mood? Then, the surrounding people exploded even more. Hey! The loyal bodyguard who was here to look after the princess wife, your future princess kissed a gigolo in public and you're just calmly pretending to be blind. If Gu Mengmeng and the other two claimed to be number 2, no one would dare to claim to be number 1. Everyone was paying attention to her, but no one dared to go near her. When the news of Gu Mengmeng being the CEO of Monsieur was released, there were still people who tried to suck up to her. But when the news of F country's future princess was released, the world instantly quietened down. Especially that Miss Mo from the Mo family. She poured a basin of water on them in the toilet, directly soaking the Mo family, a family with 100 years of history. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, and when the wall is down, everyone kicks it. In an instant, the Mo family turned from a well-off wealthy family into a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. All their businesses were suppressed by Snake in all aspects, without any regard for costs. Even if the Mo family had a mountain of gold and silver, it was not enough for Snake to scam them like this, so very quickly, they faced the crisis of having their cash flow broken. This news was magnified by the media, and all the other businesses that had business dealings with them came to settle their accounts, causing the Mo family, a family that was in a precarious situation, to be battered and exhausted. And the one who spread the news of the Mo family's cash flow breaking was the Miss Mo's marriage partner, the other wealthy family in S City, the Fan family. Marriage had nothing to do with love in the first place. You have your fun, and I have mine. It was very normal. That was why the young master of the Fan family, Fan Yuanbin, did what he did not because he was jealous of his fiancée for finding trouble with another woman for another man. Instead, it was because the old master of the Mo family had come to ask for help. He hoped that the Fan family would lend a helping hand at this critical juncture and complete the marriage between Fan Yuanbin and the young lady of the Mo family, Mo Fun, ahead of time. Then, he would lend the Mo family a sum of money in the name of betrothal gifts to help the Mo family tide over the current crisis. After the storm had passed and the Mo family had recovered, they would return the money in the name of dowry. However, the Mo clan had forgotten one thing. The so-called marriage alliance was a cooperative relationship that could only be formed when both parties were of equal strength. Right now, the Mo clan was already in existence that everyone avoided like the plague. Chapter 1634. Once this news came out, it was like adding hail to snow. Some of the old business partners who did not press for the debt because of old friendships had no choice but to come to settle the debt. The Mo family really could not fork out the money. None of old Master Mo's antiques were left. They were all moved away. Even the heirloom ring on his finger was forcefully taken off to pay off the debt. Gu Mengmeng did not know and Snake did not remember any of this. Because although they had transmigrated back a week ago, this week was a long 1,000 years that they had spent in the beast world. Snake experienced the decomposition of his body and was suppressed in the magma of Motu for 1,000 years. After his rebirth, how could he see anyone else other than Gu Mengmeng? To him, the Mo family's matter was just an order he had sent to his assistant while waiting for Gu Mengmeng to bathe in the changing room. Moreover, How could he remember a small episode from 1,000 years ago for so long? But to the others here, all of this happened yesterday. Everyone in S City knew how expensive Miss Mo's basin of water was. Under such circumstances, who would dare to go near Gu Mengmeng? Of course, it would be glorious to cling to her, but if they did not know their limits, they would end up in a terrible state. It was not easy to cling to this thigh. And look at the two people beside her, they did not give anyone a chance to get close to her. So, after Gu Mengmeng returned to school, other than the countless gazes that lingered on her, the truly annoying ones did not stick to her. But, as she had been the messenger of the beast deity for over 5 years in the beast world. After being stared at by ferocious wild beasts for 5 years, the gazes of the modern world seemed like child's play. Compared to the hundreds of males in Saint Nazaire who used their true forms to stare at her with their green eyes, tearing the carcasses of animals around her, drinking their blood, chewing on the heads of tigers and claws of wolves in front of her, these gazes in the modern world were negligible. Because she had completely forgotten the past, and everyone's gazes were treated as ineffective attacks by Gu Mengmeng, she did not take it to heart. So the Mo family's matter did not cause any ripples in Gu Mengmeng's heart. Gu Mengmeng did not have any classes in the afternoon, and Monday was the regular training day for the basketball club. Strictly speaking, Gu Mengmeng had not seen Bai Lan for over 10 years. She really missed her. To be able to return here and see Bai Lan was definitely the thing that Gu Mengmeng wanted the most. She dragged Snake and Gregory to the basketball club early in the morning and saw Bai Lan playing with Zhang Jinqing. The two of them were now in a relationship, but they were not as affectionate as other couples. Instead, they were more like good brothers who would fight each other whenever they saw each other. However, it was one thing for the two of them to insult each other to the point that they were worthless. If an outsider dared to say anything bad about the other party, they would roll up their sleeves and attack without a word of nonsense. Bai Lan. Gu Mengmeng's eyes reddened the moment she saw Bai Lan. That kind of feeling, as if it was a lifetime ago, directly attacked his heart. Ever since Snake came back to life, Gu Mengmeng's tears, which she had not shed for so many years, gushed out in an instant, unable to be stopped. Chapter 1635. As she said that, Bai Lan glared fiercely at Snake. Snake really felt like he could not defend himself even with 100 mouths. Feeling wronged by Bai Lan's glare, he leaped up angrily, but could not do anything to this woman. Gu Mengmeng cared about her, very very much. She did not say anything and just called out, Bai Lan, before her tears flowed uncontrollably. Snake did not doubt that if he dared to touch a single strand of Bai Lan's hair today, Gu Mengmeng would drown him with her tears. Gu Mengmeng cried even more fiercely as she hugged Bai Lan tightly, choking with sobs. I miss you so much, I'll go. Bai Lan quivered. She grabbed Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and pulled her away. Glancing at her tearful little face, she hugged her harshly back into her arms. She said in an especially manly manner, all right, I'll satisfy you. Go back to the dormitory to sleep tonight. If you can get off the bed tomorrow, it'll be my loss. Actually, girls would occasionally crack such jokes among themselves, but most of the time it was in private, when there were no boys around. Other than Bai Lan, there was probably no other girl in this world who dared to say something like that in front of everyone. Gu Mengmeng was tickled by Bai Lan's words. She punched Bai Lan lightly and sniffled. If I occupy you, what will happen to Zhang Jinqing? Bai Lan laughed heartily and said, both of us have become lesbians, then let him go and be gay with Snake. Wife-swapping games, it's quite exciting just thinking about it. Ha ha ha. Gu Mengmeng was someone who had lived for more than 1,000 years, but she still could not withstand Bai Lan's charms. Pinching Bai Lan, Gu Mengmeng was just about to scold her for not being serious when her waist tightened. Gu Mengmeng was suddenly pulled from behind and fell into a chest. Turning back, she met Gregory's cold and calm eyes. He was looking at Bailon with an extremely unfriendly gaze. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was sizing up whether Bailon was male or female. Gu Mengmeng was stunned. She then remembered that Gregory came from the beast world. This was his first time interacting with a modern person. He would definitely not be able to adapt to Bailon's heavy taste jokes. She wanted to explain but could not find the right words, so she could only turn to Snake for help. But the moment she saw Snake's face, fine, because of Bailon's wife-swapping joke, this old man's face was about to freeze, so he obviously wouldn't help. Gu Mingming's current position was a little awkward, because the way Gregory carried her was the same way Elvis carried her in the beast world, supporting his buttocks with one arm, as if he was carrying a child. This was very normal in the beast world, but in the modern world, basically no boyfriend had ever hugged his girlfriend like this. Especially since in everyone's eyes, Snake was Gu Mingming's boyfriend, while Gregory was just a bodyguard. This is. Bailon's expression was also unfriendly. She had already noticed Gregory just now, but Gu Mengmeng cried the moment she saw him, so she did not have the time to ask. Now, even her real boyfriend didn't dare to snatch him from her hands, but a hothead who popped out of nowhere dared to snatch him from her hands. Chapter 1636. Gu Mengmeng patted Gregory's shoulder and said, "Put me down first." Gregory's brows were still furrowed and he was obviously on guard against Bailon. "Gregory." Gu Mengmeng frowned and her gaze was filled with urgency. Her eyes were still red from crying and Gregory naturally could not bear to make her angry again, so he placed her on the ground but kept his arms around her shoulders and did not allow her to walk over to Bailon. Gu Mengmeng had no choice but to say to Gregory, "This is Bailon, a very important friend to me, just as important as Sandy. Understand?" Gu Mengmeng purposely emphasized on the word very important and even used Sandy as an example. Although Gregory was still frowning, he had retracted his cold aura and just nodded as a form of greeting. Gu Mengmeng knew that Gregory would at least not lay a hand on Bailon and heaved a sigh of relief. She turned to look at Bailon and said, "He is Gregory, he is my..." Gu Mengmeng suddenly bit her own tongue. How should she introduce him? "This is my guardian beast, the kind that can die for me but cannot enter my bed." Gu Mengmeng already felt awkward introducing guardian beasts in the beast world, and now that she was in the present world, she could not bring herself to say it. "Pursuer." Snake gave Gu Mengmeng a simple reminder and gave her a suitable phrase. Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake gratefully as if she had just been pardoned and said, "Yes, yes, yes, pursuer." F***ck. Bailon's eyes widened and she wrapped her arms around Gu Mengmeng's to pull her to her side. If she were to grab a handful of melon seeds and munch on them, she would be a modern gossipy woman. Bailon nudged Gu Mengmeng with her shoulder and said, "How did you do it? You made these two love rivals coexist peacefully and even work together to fight against outsiders? But, girl, your taste is not good. How can you find one who looks like a mute and another who still looks like a mute?" Gu Mengmeng could not explain to Bailon how loyal the males in the beast world were to their own females. And she did not want to change their stubbornness. Call her selfish, call her anything, but she frankly admitted that she liked and enjoyed the loyalty and unique gentleness they gave her. So Gu Mengmeng just smiled and said, "I like the ice abstinence type." "TSK, do you have masochistic tendencies? Isn't it good to coax you every day? You like to hug ice cubes. Aren't you afraid that you'll freeze?" "I won't." Gu Mengmeng chuckled because she knew better than anyone else how warm her man was to her. He would never freeze her. Bailon smiled slyly, a different kind of ambiguity appearing in the corner of Gu Mengmeng's eyes. She nudged Bailon with her shoulder. You are so annoying. Are you shy?" As Bailon spoke, she held Gu Mengmeng and walked to the side. When she passed by Zhang Jinqing, she said with a look of disdain, "Aren't you the leader? Everyone is here. Don't we need to organize a practice?" So you're all here to let out some fresh air in the basketball club, right? Zhang Jinqing did not lose his temper even after being teased by Bailan. He just chuckled and said, yes, let's hurry up and practice. The Tech University basketball team sent us a challenge letter and indicated that they want to meet Snake. When the time comes, the surrounding universities' basketball clubs will all send representatives to watch the match. Snake, whether our basketball club can become an instant hit depends on you. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1637. Having not touched a basketball for 1,000 years, Snake felt an itch to play, so he entered the changing room to change. Gregory was not a member of the basketball club, but he was tall, well-built and handsome. Zhang Jinqing had thought of pulling him into the basketball club, but Gregory was obviously an enemy of Bailan. He guarded Gu Mengmeng closely and did not spare a single glance at anyone else. This caused Zhang Jinqing to attempt to strike up a conversation several times, only to be met with a nose full of ice. In the end, Zhang Jinqing gave up. And considering that Snake and Gregory were love rivals, for the sake of team harmony, Zhang Jinqing could only give up the idea of recruiting Gregory. And all these psychological activities, other than Zhang Jinqing, no one else noticed. He was the legendary playboy with a lot of inner drama, but no one had an audience. Snake was still very handsome when he played basketball. Gu Mengmeng and Bailan did not chat for long before their eyes were attracted to Snake. Bailan laughed at the side. Good for nothing. Then she gave Gregory a warning look, which probably meant, did you see that? The two of them have a good relationship. You'd better know when to back off. Don't ruin their relationship. Gregory could not be bothered with Bailan's warning. He just quietly admired Gu Mengmeng, who was looking at Snake with an infatuated look. Did he want to be the one who attracted her gaze? Grace was seriously thinking about this problem. If sweating profusely on the basketball court could make her look at him with such focus and admiration, would he be willing? The answer was yes, he was willing. But when she looked at him like that, he could not return the same focus and would miss out on her expression. Then would he still be willing? He was not willing. He had suppressed motive for 1,000 years, which meant he had missed out on seeing her for 1,000 years. And now, he was not willing to miss out on seeing her again. So what if her gaze was not focused on him? As long as she was in his line of sight, he would feel blissful. After the practice ended, Snake brought Gu Mengmeng and Gregory back to the villa. Snake's sports car only had 2 seats, so a commercial car was temporarily transferred from the 4th Fleet. His sports car was parked directly in the school. Anyway, no one dared to interfere. It was Gregory's first time in a car. He was nervous and uneasy. To comfort him, Gu Mengmeng sat with him in the back seat. Snake was unhappy, but he only said, "So weak." He did not say anything else. Gregory did not refute. If he showed weakness, baby Meng would accompany him and care about him. He did not mind showing weakness all the time. After all, out of the 4 males in the family, he was the only level 3 orc. Gu Mengmeng held on to Gregory's hand and gently patted the back of it. "It's all right, don't be afraid. Snake's driving skills are top-notch. He's an experienced driver. With you here, I'm not afraid," Grace replied with a gentle smile. It would be an exaggeration to say that he was afraid. It was just that riding in a car was too novel, and Gregory was a little nervous. Fortunately, Snake drove home smoothly and did not deliberately speed to scare Gregory. The moment she alighted, Gu Mengmeng's phone rang. The caller ID indicated that it was Bailan. Gu Mengmeng didn't think much and directly picked it up. "Hello, Bailan. You miss me so soon." Gu Mengmeng's joke was met with a creepy sneer on the other end of the phone. That sneer was modified by a voice changer. Chapter 1638. If you want to save your good friend, come to the unfinished building in the northern suburbs alone. If you dare to bring one more person, I will push them down to their deaths in front of you." With that, before Gu Mengmeng could reply, the call was cut off. When Gu Mengmeng called back, it was a reminder that the phone was switched off. Gu Mengmeng panicked. She looked at Snake and Gregory, not knowing what to do. "This is kidnapping, we can report it to the police." Snake replied calmly. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said with a sobbing tone, "Didn't you hear what she said just now? If one more person goes, she will push Bailon down." Snake held Gu Mengmeng's shoulders with both hands and said, "Don't panic, Gregory and I will go with you. We will definitely help you save Bailon." But she said, "Are the two of us humans?" Snake smiled devilishly and asked Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng choked. She looked at Snake and then at Gregory and shook her head. A snake, a bird, not human, they were not human. "So, we can go." Snake hugged Gu Mengmeng and said, "Don't worry, don't be afraid. We said we won't let you cry again, so we won't let you cry again." Gu Mengmeng was comforted by Snake's hug. She nodded and felt more at ease. Snake placed her back in the car and went straight to the unfinished building in the northern city. The unfinished building in the north city was originally meant to be a villa, but who knew that halfway through the construction, the boss lost all his money in gambling and ran away. The building was left unfinished. Usually, many drug addicts would gather here to have a good time, and those delinquents who thought they were cool and awesome would often gather here to fight or have sex. Anyway, this was the most filthy place in S City. Children from decent families would not come here. And it was naturally Gu Mengmeng's first time stepping into such a place. It was just evening and it was not the time for those people to move around. The walls of this dilapidated villa were filled with non-mainstream graffiti such as skulls. Burnt petrol barrels, cigarette butts and condoms were the main rubbish here. Snake parked the car outside the unfinished building. He did not let Gu Mengmeng enter directly, but gave Gregory a look. Gregory understood and shrugged his shoulders, transforming into a bird and flying into the night sky against the sunset glow. At a sufficient height, nothing in the unfinished building could escape Gregory's eyes. He circled around once and locked onto a location. He flew back to Mengmeng's side and said, "In that building, I saw the shoes that Zhang Jinqing wore today. There's smoke coming from the 4th floor, but it doesn't seem like a bonfire because it's very thin and faint." "All right, then I'm going in." Snake smiled and said, "Tu Meng, who are you going to call to help you later?" Gu Mengmeng pushed Snake and said, "Bailon is still inside, I am not in the mood to joke around." Snake hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin and said, "I'm not joking either. I admit that I lost to Elvis, but if you dare to be the last to call me, I will eat them." Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. She could only nod and say, all right, I got it. I'm going in first." Snake leaned against the car door and waved his hand, saying, "Go on, Pikachu." Chapter 1639. According to the coordinates given by Gregory, Gu Mengmeng accurately found where Bailon and the rest were. Looking up, she saw a vulture hovering above her head at a height of 6,000 meters. She did not even need to think to know who it was. Gregory's speed was extremely fast, and he would only need about 4 seconds to dive down. That meant that if she was pushed down from the 4th floor, Gregory would be able to catch her before she hit the ground from a height of 6,000 meters. So, what was there to be afraid of? Gu Mengmeng hummed a tune as she walked step by step to the bottom of the villa. The shape of the walls had already been completed, but it was still rough. There were no windows or doors, and there were no handrails for the stairs. It looked tattered, and it was hard to imagine that this was originally a high-end residential area targeted at the wealthiest people. There were no obstructions along the way to the 4th floor, but having lived in the beast world for so many years, Gu Mengmeng still had some of the sharp senses of an orc. Of course, it was not as sharp as Elvis, Leah and Snake, but she still had the basic ability to sense things. There seemed to be 5 or 6 people lying in ambush around the villa. From the moment she entered the villa, they quietly followed behind her. When she went up to the second floor, one of the 5 or 6 people stayed behind to guard the door, probably to keep a lookout, while the rest followed her upstairs. Obviously, they were afraid that she would run away, and were prepared to surround her. TSK, they really had no sense of danger, unable to differentiate who was the hunter and who was the prey. Gu Mengmeng pretended that she did not notice them, and continued humming a tune as she walked up the stairs. The people lying in ambush also felt that Gu Mengmeng's state was not right at first, but after a closer look, she really came alone. The man who sent her here was standing by the roadside, and did not enter the estate with her at all. So they analyzed Gu Mengmeng's humming posture as she walked up the stairs to boost her courage, pretending to be calm and acting mysterious. When she reached the 4th floor, she saw Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing tied to a folding chair, back to back. Their arms were tied together, and it was impossible for them to help each other untie the ropes. Both of their legs were tied to the legs of the chair, and the edges of the ropes were stained with blood, showing how tightly they were tied. 2 people who couldn't move were suspended in the air by iron chains. The chains swayed slightly and made a sharp and ear-piercing sound. Gu Mengmeng frowned and her heart twitched. When she first went to the beast world, she felt that the sharp claws and fangs of the orcs were too scary, but when she returned to the modern world, she understood, when humans are ruthless, they are much scarier than ferocious beasts. Chapter 1640. Ah! A low growl was heard. It was a man's voice. Zhang Jinqing. Bai Lan panicked and shouted anxiously. I'm fine, Bai Lan, don't worry. I'm fine. Zhang Jinqing's voice was extremely weak. When they kidnapped Bai Lan, he had fought with them with all his might. Although he was a member of the basketball team and had a better physique than them, a fierce tiger could not fight against a pack of wolves. How could 2 fists fight against 4 hands? Moreover, there were more than 10 of them and they were all armed. By the time he defeated 3 or 4 of them, he was already riddled with injuries. In the end, all he could do was protect Bai Lan with all his might and try his best not to let her get hurt. Just now, he had used up the last of his energy to turn their bodies to the back of Bai Lan, while his calf was hit hard by that woman. The bones in his calf were probably broken. Basketball, he might not be able to play in the future. But the moment the pain spread throughout his entire body, the first thought that came to his mind was, luckily she was not the one in pain. You're really a Casanova. The woman laughed sarcastically. Zhang Jinqing spat out the blood in his mouth and said, maybe I stayed with Snake for too long and didn't learn basketball skills. I learned some infatuation. I'm not a Casanova, but as long as I, Zhang Jinqing, am still breathing, I will not let you hurt a single hair on Bai Lan. The woman paused when she heard Snake's name. Then, she gritted her teeth and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. Her gaze was colder than a poisonous scorpion's. The person in Snake's heart, since he dotes on you so much, why did he let you come here alone? I think you're just a so-so. As the woman spoke, she walked towards Gu Mengmeng. She dragged the wooden stick on the ground and made a slight scraping sound. Gu Mengmeng did not waste her 5 years in the beast world. Her background might not be as good as the orcs, but against the modern people, even a boxing champion might not have much chance of winning against her. After all, her sparring partners in the beast world were all ferocious beasts who were kings of the mountains. However, before they started fighting, Gu Mengmeng felt that there was a need to clarify some questions, so she retracted her gaze from Bai Lan and looked at the woman approaching her. She asked calmly, "But, who are you?" The woman paused and stared at Gu Mengmeng in disbelief. She realized that Gu Meng Meng had a blank and calm look on her face, and it was obvious that she really did not know her. Ha! Ha ha ha! Who am I? You ruined my family, and now you're asking me who I am. Ha ha ha! What could be more cruel than someone who was so jealous that they almost became a demon, but the other party didn't even remember who you were? Me? Gu Meng Meng pointed at her own nose, feeling wronged. She had just transmigrated back this morning and had been attending classes in the morning. In the afternoon, she went to the club with Snakel. She had just returned home when she was called here before even entering the house. She did not mind destroying the family of this woman who had hurt Bai Lan, but she needed time to work on the case. Gu Meng Meng. Go and die, you should go and die. As the woman said that, she suddenly pounced towards Gu Meng Meng and smashed the wooden stick in her hand down. Gu Meng Meng tilted her body and easily dodged the woman's attack. Having seen so many fights between Elvis and Snakel, this woman's movements were as slow as a snail's. Gu Meng Meng kicked the woman's ankle with one foot and grabbed her wrist with the other. She twisted it hard and the wooden stick in the woman's hand fell to the ground. Aside from the topic, clap for student Xiao Zhan. Bravery does not mean that you are invincible. It means that even though you are clearly afraid, you still stood in front of me to protect me. It's only 5:00. What time for dinner? Gu Meng Meng was stunned for a moment. Then, she saw the strange expression on the man's face and understood, he was a drug addict. Brother Meng seemed to have expected this to happen. He ignored the lackeys and directly said to Gu Meng Meng, "Girl, we just want money, not lives. We have no intention of meddling in the grievances between you and that slut. We just want to make friends with you and borrow some money to spend." Ah, an old line of blackmail. TSK, what era was this? Korean dramas were already about amnesia, car accidents and leukemia. Yet, they still wanted to make friends and borrow some money. Not even changing their tactics. Chapter 1642. Once Gu Meng Meng said that, Brother Meng started laughing. His laugh was rather wretched, as if he was laughing at Gu Meng Meng's innocence and ignorance. What can I do? I, your brother, still want to be friends with you. As Brother Meng said, he walked towards Gu Meng Meng. His face was clearly shriveled up, obviously influenced by the person beside him who was having a meal and had some lewd thoughts. Whether she could defeat this Brother Meng was one thing, but to fight against him was another. Gu Meng Meng was especially aware of how sensitive the noses of the few people in her family were. If she was stained with the scent of another man, they could destroy the earth, so Gu Meng Meng smiled awkwardly and said, "I really can't stop you if you want to die." With that, Gu Meng Meng punched her own collarbone hard, then grabbed her chest and twisted her ear. Brother Meng looked at Gu Meng Meng and thought that she was crazy, so he was stunned for a moment. But before he could react, a white light suddenly flashed beside Gu Meng Meng and 3 ferocious beasts appeared. A huge black wolf opened its mouth wide and bared its fangs at them. Its green eyes were filled with bloodlust and cruelty. A snake as thick as a train's skin crushed the ground of the villa and broke through the roof. Its huge body circled around the villa and all of them were trapped by the snake's body. Snake scales glowed faintly in green light all around them and the sound of friction made one's hair stand on end. The few men were so scared that they fell to the ground. The more timid ones peed their pants on the spot. And that innocent little person was nestled in the tail of a white and fluffy fox. She looked like a soul-seducing dodgy smiling like a flower as she watched Baigan's heart being gouged out. "See, I told you. My man doesn't like me to be friends with other men. You just had to throw yourself at him. It won't be easy even if one wants to spare your life." Gu Meng Meng stood up from Li's arms and patted his back. "Help me put them down first, then use the fox seductive fragrance to make them forget what they saw today." Leah nodded. Then, he waved his large tail and transformed into a human in front of everyone, leaving only one hand that looked like a fox's claw. With a wave, the metal chains were cut apart like tofu skin that could not withstand a single blow. Leah quickly untied the ropes on by Lan and Zhang Jincheng, then followed Gu Mingming's instructions and used the fox seductive fragrance to hypnotize them. Seeing that Leah had transformed into a human, Brother Mang was the first to react. He ran backwards in fear. Mother! Monster! Gu Mengmeng turned back and looked at the person who was still swaggering around. She chuckled and said, "Demon. You knew they were monsters, yet you still shouted. If you shout so loudly, do you think you can run away?" Brother Mang was as cowardly as a dog. He knelt down in front of Gu Mengmeng and kowtowed. "Great aunt, my dear great aunt. Spare me, we just wanted to get some money to spend. The idea was all that slut mo funds. She wanted to kidnap your friends to force you out. Then, all the injuries on my friends were caused by her alone." Gu Mengmeng looked down at him and asked coldly. Chapter 1643. Leah did not do anything else in Europe for the past week, just researching on medical skills. He knew that he had to wait for Gu Mengmeng to find him or call him over, but if he did nothing and just waited, he would go crazy, so he shifted all his attention to his studies. He did not allow himself to have a moment of leisure, which resulted in the results of his 7 days of study being very obvious. Coupled with his own medical foundation, he quickly diagnosed Zhang Jincheng's injuries. "It's not convenient for me to check on that little female, but this male, his leg is broken, 4 of his ribs are broken, his head is obviously injured, there are 27 external injuries on his body and 19 bruises. Using your words here, it's called a body with cuts and bruises all over, right?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "Good, very good." Gu Mengmeng waved at Elvis, calling him to her side. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck gently. "You don't have to do anything to these trash, even biting them to death would dirty your mouth." "Yes, yes, yes. Great aunt, you're really right." Brother Mang had long been scared out of his wits by Elvis's green eyes. The pressure from staring at a ferocious beast was really not something to joke about. Gu Mengmeng pointed at the few people lying on the ground. "The few of you, listen up. Out of everyone here, I will only allow one person to leave alive. You guys, do as you see fit." Upon hearing that, the gangsters only took 2 to 3 seconds to react. They then immediately picked up their weapons and attacked the people around them. This was human. In front of a strong enemy, they would never unite as one. They did not even dare to attack Elvis, Snake and the rest. They immediately brandished their weapons and attacked their equally weak companions. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. She had respect for human lives, but, survival of the fittest, the winner gets to eat alone. She was no longer the Gu Mengmeng who had just arrived in the beast world, who would value life regardless of right or wrong. "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll eliminate them completely." The gangsters, who were in a frenzy of killing, each attack was more ruthless than the previous one. After about 20 minutes, the scene where there were more than 10 people just now had turned into a bloody mess. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, I survived, can I go now?" Gu Mengmeng recognized him. He was the lackey who had been following Brother Meng just now. He seemed to have a good relationship with Brother Meng, so Brother Meng trusted him very much. When the fight started, he even stuck his back to him, planning to work together to save his life. But Brother Meng definitely didn't expect that the first blow that landed on his head was from his lackey. Gu Mengmeng nodded and made a "please" gesture. The lackey took 2 steps back and stopped beside Snake's body. He turned around and looked at Gu Mengmeng with a face full of blood. Gu Mengmeng smiled. "Snake. Snake transformed into a human lazily and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He wiped her little face and said, "That's it. You've called out the 3 beast kings, but you won't let us take action." Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "They are too dirty, I can't bear to dirty your hands." Elvis also transformed into a human and carried her up from the ground. "I felt the pain from the mark and thought something had happened to you." Chapter 1644. Yes, summon. A special ability possessed by the partner of a beast king. When the female felt extreme fear, or when the mating mark was attacked, no matter where the partner of a beast king was, he would be summoned to the female's side by the mating mark. And this buff was activated when Gu Mengmeng stepped down as the messenger of the beast deity. Every messenger of the beast deity could leave behind a buff for the beast world when she stepped down to become a beast deity, and the one Wang Xiaoxin left behind back then allowed the males of a beast king level to enter the dreamland. It went without saying who she was waiting for. And Gu Mingming's buff was Li's idea. Because Wang Xiaoxin's departure took away all the additional abilities from Gu Mengmeng. She was a weak little female and needed protection, and the 3 of them were too afraid of any accidents happening to Gu Mengmeng. So Li's suggestion was unanimously approved by the males in the family, and Gu Mengmeng herself did not have any special thoughts, so she went along with them. But she did not expect that the ultimate move that she did not use in the beast world would be used on a few hooligans. But it did not matter, after all, she could save on 2 plane tickets. Elvis was appeased by Gu Mingming's "I miss you." He kissed Gu Mingming's little face, then pointed at the fainted group and asked, "How do we deal with them? They look like they are still breathing, do we need to bite them to death?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "No need, just call the police." Elvis nodded and did not say a word, just accompanying Gu Mengmeng to sit at the side. At this moment, Gregory flew in from the window with a huge box in his hands. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory, confused. Gregory handed the box to Snake, who opened it to reveal that it was filled to the brim with US dollars. Gu Mengmeng was flabbergasted. Snake threw the box to the side, then stroked Gu Mingming's hair and said, "Since you don't wish to dirty our hands, then we can only let them receive the legal punishment of the human world. After all, those who offended my 2 men cannot be let off easily no matter what." So, Snake gently pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "They kidnapped Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing. The police can verify the process by investigating the surveillance cameras along the way. Then, he would call you and threaten you to come alone." This is also very simple. Just check the call records. I called you here to extort money from you. After all, you are the CEO of Monsieur Group and the future daughter-in-law of the royal family of F country. You are very valuable. That's why I'm here to deliver the money. It's a pity that they couldn't divide the spoils evenly and had internal strife. Gu Mengmeng laughed softly. "This box of money is the evidence." Snakel smiled and nodded. "My father made it very clear before he left. Whoever dares to bully you will be challenging the dignity of the F country's royal family and destroying the diplomatic relations between the 2 countries. Gu Mengmeng said, "What if they tell others that they saw you guys transform?" Snake's eyes flashed and he laughed. "If this gets out, people will only think that they overdosed on drugs and hallucinated, right? Tell me, if you were a police officer, would you believe the crazy words of a kidnapper and drug addict?" Chapter 1645. To be honest, as a modern local, Gu Mengmeng was not as knowledgeable as an outsider like Snake. Or rather, Gu Mengmeng was a commoner living at the bottom of society. Even if she was as scheming as Snake, she would not be able to produce such a huge box of US dollars as evidence. She would also not be able to use the word diplomatic relations to force the government to settle this matter according to their wishes. All the hooligans would not be able to escape from forced detoxification and jail time. But, Gu Mingming's gaze landed on the woman who was curled up behind the barrel of gasoline. Her body was covered in bruises and her clothes could not cover her body. Her messy hair and bloodstains at the corner of her lips were all signs of what she had just experienced. The wrist that was crushed by Gu Mengmeng was dangling at a weird angle on her knee. Her pupils were dilated and it was obvious that she was frightened by the scene just now. Come to think of it, if it was anyone else, they would also be frightened. Didn't Gu Mengmeng faint on the spot the first time she saw Snake's original body? As for this woman, she had seen the main bodies of all three orcs at once without any warning. She was already very courageous to just stand there blankly and not die on the spot. You don't remember her? Snake followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and asked. Gu Mengmeng did not answer Snake's question. Instead, she turned to look at Snake and asked in confusion, should I know her? Snake chuckled and said, you must not have been paying attention when you were watching television with Wang Xiaoxin. Gu Mingming's face was wooden and she did not reply. Snake said, during the gathering after the press conference, the one who locked you in the toilet and splashed a basin of water on you. Yes, Snake had completely forgotten about the incident where Gu Mengmeng straddled her and slapped her. He only remembered that this woman bullied his Tu Meng. Now that Snake mentioned it, Gu Mengmeng remembered that it had indeed happened. But, she was the one who provoked me first. I only slapped her a few times. Did she have to kidnap Bailon to kill me? Gu Mengmeng was confused. Snake took out his cell phone from his pocket and opened a few popular news websites. He searched for news related to the MO group and passed it to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng swiped her cell phone twice and her facial features turned on the emoji pack mode. She grimaced as she read a few of the headlines, then looked at Snake and asked, these were made by you? Snake shook his head, determined not to take the blame. It's not me, it's the assistant who did it. But the result is still satisfactory. This assistant can be promoted, get a raise, and get a good car. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. Chapter 1646. You want me to repay evil with good? But Tu Meng, repay evil with good, how can I repay good? Snake's face was cold. He was not willing to let off anyone who dared to provoke Gu Mengmeng. He could not even bear to touch a finger on the person he cherished dearly, so how could she be bullied by others? Yes, the one in the toilet was not the real Gu Mengmeng, but an illusory image. But the illusory image was also Snake's illusory image. She was the treasure he cherished dearly and anyone who dared to touch her would die. Elvis was also in the illusion when Gu Mengmeng was drenched in water. He had accompanied Gu Mengmeng to the end, so he knew what had happened. When Snake reminded Gu Mengmeng who that woman was, Elvis's face darkened. The two males who had been fighting for the position of the first partner for so many years actually reached a high level of tacit understanding and unity on this matter. I feel that Snake is right, Xiao Meng. Being kind to your enemy is being cruel to yourself. If you don't remove the roots, the weeds will grow again. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt very helpless. The cause of this incident was just emotion and being cheap. She clearly had a fiancé but still had her sights set on Snake, so she drenched Gu Mengmeng with water. This kind of method used by junior high school students to ostracize their female classmates could not even be considered as childish, let alone bullying. Even if they really bullied Gu Mengmeng, the Mo family had already paid a sufficient price. If they continued to force her, the news tomorrow would probably be old Master Mo jumping off a building. Gu Mengmeng cast her gaze at Leah. Leah smiled knowingly and waved his large tail. Did you all not understand Gu Mengmeng's meaning? Elvis and Snake glanced sideways at Leah. They had no choice even if they did not want to admit it. Among the four males in the family, Leah was the one who was the best at understanding Gu Mengmeng's thoughts. Leah swayed his large tail as he walked to Gu Mengmeng's side. As he placed his tail into her arms, he smiled slyly at Mo Fun and said, "That Mo family should have been completely suppressed by you to the point where they have nowhere else to go, unable to withstand a single blow, and are just waiting for death. They must have lost all hope and given up struggling, waiting for death to come." Snake nodded. The Fan family was the last hope of the Mo family, but what Fan Yuanbin did was too extreme. That was practically the last straw that broke the camel's back. Now, the Mo family was just waiting for death as Leah had described. Even if there was still half a day of hope, Mo Fan wouldn't dare to do such a thing. This was clearly an act of mutual destruction. Stupid, but also sad. Leah shrugged his shoulders, as if he had thought of something interesting. He continued, "They want to die, so you let them die." Could it be that after following Meng Meng as a beast god for a few years, you've really become a god who loves the world and is compassionate? Snake paused for a moment and suddenly smiled. The corners of his lips curled upwards as he said, "You bullied my two Meng. Do you want to die? How can it be that cheap?" Elvis did not understand and just frowned at the two sinister people in front of him. After a moment of silence, he said, "You two are in charge of coming up with ideas, I am only in charge of executing." Snake looked at Elvis and said, "You don't have to do anything, that little assistant of mine is quite capable." Chapter 1647. When the police arrived, they saw the floor littered with hooligans on their last breaths, Mo Fan who was in a state of rags, Gu Meng Meng who was safe and sound in Snake's arms, and the bodyguard Gregory who was sent by the F Kingdom's prince to protect the future princess, who had been exposed in various media reports in the early morning. Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing were escorted by Elvis and Leah to the hospital, where there were people arranged by Snake to receive them. Actually, it was not a big problem even without Elvis and Leah, but they were summoned by Gu Meng Meng using the mating mark and did not have any records of entering the country. It would be troublesome if they appeared suddenly, so they accompanied Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing to the hospital. Gu Meng Meng followed the script that Snake had arranged and explained it to the police. The police were all scared out of their wits. However, Gu Meng Meng changed Mo Fan's part slightly. From the kidnapper to the helper. She said that Mo Fan was bullied by the hooligans because he wanted to protect her, and if not for Mo Fan, she would have been the one being bullied. So in the end, Mo Fan was not brought away by the police, but was sent back to the Mo family by Snake's men. And the only lackey who left the unfinished building, alive, became the wanted target of the police, and was identified as the mastermind of this kidnapping. He was the scapegoat, but he could not shake off this blame. Because he had indeed participated in the kidnapping, and it was not the first time he had killed someone, so it was not wrong for him to be wanted. And the video of Mo Fan kidnapping Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing was also sent back to the Mo family. These videos were all taken down by Snake, and other than Snake, the police did not have a single one in their hands. Only Gu Meng Meng and Snake's confession could be used as evidence. There was no choice, because the words of those hooligans after they woke up could not be trusted. What giant wild wolf, snake as thick as a trained skin, TSK, their brains were really full of holes from all the drugs they drank. None of them were normal. In the end, they were all sent to the drug rehabilitation center for forced detoxification. And old Master Mo did not even wait for the next day. That very night, he led a group of men and women from the Mo family to the villa Gu Meng Meng was staying in. Snake did not seem to be surprised at all. He just sat on the main seat of the sofa like a king, playing with Gu Meng Meng's fingers out of boredom, leaving the entire Mo family standing in front of him at a loss of what to do. With a plop, old Master Mo's body bent and he directly knelt on the ground, saying, "Since you're willing to bury that vile spawn's deeds and protect her by sending her back to the Mo clan, it's clear that you don't really intend to exterminate the Mo clan. As long as you can leave a way out for our family, no matter what you want to do, we won't say anything." Gu Meng Meng felt extremely uncomfortable being kneeled by someone who could be her grandfather. She wanted to help Grandfather Mo up, but Snake held her waist and whispered into her ear, "In front of me, he doesn't have the right to flaunt his seniority. You are my woman. You have a very high status." Gu Meng Meng kept quiet. Snake should be 2,000 years old by now. In front of him, old Master Mo, who was over 70 years old, could be called a little fresh meat. But this little fresh meat had the face of an old man. Gu Meng Meng still felt uncomfortable. Chapter 1648. The Mo family. The Mo family was now in a terrible mess, riddled with holes. Snakel said he wanted something that others might not even want even if they offered it to others. Was it clear that he was willing to let the Mo family off? Elder Mo was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly got his family members to help him up from the ground. Only when Elder Mo stood up did the rest of the Mo family dare to stand up as well. Elder Mo sat on the sofa. His 70 years of life had given him a wealth of experience. Even though he could not see through the thoughts of this man in front of him, he could tell that he doted on and accommodated that young girl. So the Mo family could be revived and receive this amnesty was probably because that young girl was magnanimous and was willing to let the Mo family off this once. Without saying anything else, Elder Mo smiled at Gu Meng Meng and nodded. It was a small action, but it was obvious how much gratitude he was showing. Snakel did not like other men to size up Gu Meng Meng, even if they were like a withered old cucumber. She was only 70 years old and this kind of fresh meat was very dangerous. He had to guard her with all his might. Who knew what was wrong with Gu Meng Meng that she would suddenly like ugly and wrinkled men? Frowning, Snakel glared at Elder Mo and said, "Since you have sat down, does that mean you agree to my purchase of the Mo family?" "Agree, of course I agree." Elder Mo did not dare to object. "Then is there anything else?" Snakel was obviously asking them to leave. Elder Mo was taken aback. This verbal agreement was enough. Would Snakel suddenly change his mind tomorrow and not want the Mo family anymore? This young man, he always did whatever he wanted. What kind of person was Snakel? Elder Mo's thoughts were as clear to him as the monk's scar on his head. As long as one was not blind, he would be able to see it clearly. "My assistant will bring a team of lawyers to the Mo family tomorrow to negotiate," Snakel said calmly. Elder Mo then relaxed and smiled apologetically. "Since that's the case, we shall not disturb you any further. Goodbye, goodbye." Snakel gestured for them to leave but did not even have the intention to stand up. After the Mo family left the villa, Snake didn't let go of Gu Meng Meng and just carried her upstairs. As he went upstairs, he sent a message to his assistant. 2 sentences, take over the Mo group tomorrow morning, and first floor of the villa, new sofa set. Yes, how could he let his 2 Mengs sit on a sofa that another man had sat on? Gu Mingming's room was in the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. Snake had predicted from the start that Gu Meng Meng would not agree to stay in his room when she moved in, so he just emptied the master bedroom and stayed in the 2nd bedroom. However, anyway, he would not stay for long. After all, he had planned to stay in Gu Mingming's room from the start. Now that they had become partners, it was even more justifiable for him to avoid it. He naturally carried Gu Meng Meng back to the main nest. His eyebrows twitched. Initially, when he designed such a spacious master bedroom, it was not to accommodate so many people. Leo laid sideways on the side of the king-size bed. He swayed his tail seductively and smiled at Gu Meng Meng with a beauty that could cause the downfall of nations and people. He opened his mouth and said, "Meng Meng, this bed has your scent, it smells so good." Gu Meng Meng blushed strangely. It was just a normal sentence, why did Leah make it sound so ambiguous? Aside from the topic. Chapter 1649. Meng Meng, you have given me the cold shoulder for a week, aren't you going to comfort me? Leah used his elbow to support his head and reached out a finger to beckon at Gu Meng Meng. That coquettish and charming look was like the reincarnation of Daji, destined to captivate the masses with his bewitching looks. After seeing that face for so many years, Gu Meng Meng was still not immune to it. Wiping away her saliva, Gu Meng Meng pounced at him and hugged him. She rubbed her face against Li's chest and said, "How is it a week? Didn't we transmigrate together in the morning?" Leah pinched Gu Meng Meng's face and said, "Snake made some minor adjustments to our transmigration points. Although we transmigrated together, we arrived here a week earlier than you guys." Gu Meng Meng turned back to look at Snake and wanted to ask why. But before she could open her mouth, Snake replied, "They need time to adapt to the life here, so as to avoid causing you any trouble." Gu Meng Meng did not understand. Li's chin rested lightly on Gu Meng Meng's furry little head. He wrapped his large arms around Gu Meng Meng's waist and wrapped his fluffy and white large tail around Gu Meng Meng's waist for her to hug. When Gu Meng Meng was in his arms, Li's voice was always lazy and a little hoarse and casual. He said, "Snake was a normal person in the past, but now, he, Elvis and Gregory are complete bodies that transmigrated from the beast world. The most basic thing is, the four of us cannot enter the hospital. So this week, I improved the medical skills I learned from the television to ensure that I can handle any special situation." Gu Meng Meng glanced sideways at Leah with some heartache. Her small hands caressed Li's face and she said, "Actually, you don't have to work so hard." She did not want to admit it, but this was just an illusion. If there was an emergency, they could leave any time. That grassland was now their stability in the modern world. Leah knew what Gu Meng Meng was thinking. He caressed the back of Gu Meng Meng's head with his fingertips and kissed the top of her head. He said, "If this place can make your life more comfortable, there's nothing wrong with us staying here. As long as you are here, to me, anywhere is home." "Thank you." Gu Meng Meng was extremely touched. She rubbed her little face against Li's chest and whimpered like a kitten. Silly girl. Even Leah himself did not realize how much love and indulgence was contained in those two words. At that time, he thought that his heart would never beat again. He thought that there was only scheming, hatred, and revenge left in his life. It was this little thing who stumbled into his trap and turned his world upside down. It was also because of this that the sunlight shone into the dark corner where he was curled up, and that cold heart gradually resumed beating. Only he, who had crawled out of the darkness, knew how much he longed for warmth and light. Especially after losing her, he would never forget the feeling of falling from the warm sun into an ice cave. At that time, every tear she shed and every heartless word she said was a warning to him for the rest of his life. He would never let her suffer again. That was his promise to himself. Elvis scooped Gu Meng Meng out from Li's arms and chuckled. "I am the first partner. With me around, when was it your turn to hug Xiaomeng?" Aside from the topic. Chapter 1650. Leah rolled his eyes at Elvis in a tsundere manner and snorted. Without saying anything else, he rolled around on the bed and hugged Gu Meng Meng's pillow to take a deep breath. Then, he looked at Gu Meng Meng with a dubious smile. Elvis placed Gu Meng Meng on the chair beside the dressing table and looked at her reflection in the mirror. "I saw it in Europe, do you like it?" Gu Meng Meng tilted her head and saw a European bronze wooden comb in Snake's hands. She smiled and asked, "Why did you think of giving me a wooden comb?" Elvis said, "When we went to Sauder to participate in the beauty pageant the first year, you said you wanted a rhinoceros horn comb. It's a pity you didn't even make one after breaking off so many beast horns from Oriton." If Elvis had not mentioned this, Gu Meng Meng would have long forgotten about it. But looking at Elvis's expression, it was obvious that he had kept it in his heart and felt that he had disappointed Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng smiled and took the comb from Elvis. "It's very pretty. I like it very much. Thank you. Let me help you comb your hair." Elvis's gaze was gentle. Gu Meng Meng nodded and sat down obediently. Snake leaned against the door and watched Elvis comb Gu Meng Meng's hair. He asked with a faint smile, "Did you buy this comb? Do you have money?" Gu Meng Meng clearly felt Elvis pause in his combing action. He suddenly looked up at Snake and then back at Gu Meng Meng. His face was filled with confusion. Gu Meng Meng's heart skipped a beat. That. Elvis, don't tell me you took it from someone else without paying. That's right, how could there be a concept of buying and selling in the beast world? If I like it, I will just snatch it. If you are not happy, you can snatch it back. Elvis shook his head and said, the money was paid by someone else. Someone else. Gu Meng Meng caught onto an important point and asked in confusion. Elvis nodded and said, there was a male who had a lot of these combs. I challenged him and said that if I won, he would give me this comb, but he rejected. And then. Gu Meng Meng's heart was in her throat. How could a modern man withstand a beating from a beast king like Elvis? It would be troublesome if someone died because of a comb. Elvis said, then another male walked over and said that if I fought with his men, regardless of the outcome, he would give me this comb. I agreed. Gu Meng Meng's face was filled with confusion. There were still such warmongers in the modern world. Fight me, and I'll give you a wooden comb. What kind of godly development was this? But Snake just smiled, looking as if he knew it all too well. He asked, lost or won? Elvis frowned and said, the males in this world can't take a beating. Gu Meng Meng stood up immediately and grabbed onto Elvis's arm with both her hands, asking, hubby, did you beat someone to death? Elvis shook his head and said, he didn't die, he just broke an arm. Did you show your original form? Gu Meng Meng asked. Elvis shook his head and said, he punched me, so I grabbed his wrist and wanted to throw him out. The moment I threw him, his arm broke. I don't know either, he looked quite strong, but why are his bones so soft? One pull and it broke. His brows lightly touched as he stared at it for a long time before turning to look at Gu Meng Meng. In a negotiating tone, he said, Xiao Meng, can you let me fight another round? Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis in confusion and asked, why? If you want to exercise your muscles, Snake and Leah are good sparring partners. No matter how strong those people in the underground black market are, they are not enough for you to fight. Elvis shook his head and said, no, I don't want to fight, I just want this. Chapter 1652. The boss of the black boxing boss took out an extremely exquisite comb. It was said to be one of the dowries of the first queen of F country. It was inlaid with the world's most perfect ruby, the blazing sun. It was said that this comb could make the woman who owned it extremely blissful. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. A comb could make someone extremely blissful. Why don't you say that the ruby on it is from De Beers Kimberley? A ruby is everlasting, one will be passed down forever. Xiao Meng. Elvis looked serious. Yes, he had obviously eaten this Amway. No. Gu Meng Meng put on a straight face and said, I only need one wooden comb. I don't have the hobby of collecting combs. Moreover, I only have one head and this much hair. How many combs can I use? Hubby, listen to me. This person is obviously lying to you. If you go for this comb this time, he will use some other gimmick comb to entice you to fight again. Fight after fight, it will never end. Elvis pursed his lips. If it could make Xiao Meng happier, it was really nothing to fight. Hubby, you are different from the people here. If you expose yourself too many times, you will definitely attract attention. What if your identity is exposed? I won't. Elvis kissed Gu Meng Meng's little face. He coaxed and begged, I promise, I won't let anyone discover my identity. I still want to stay here and accompany you to live the life you like. But Xiao Meng, I am a male. I can't hide at home forever and wait for others to provide for me. I have to have my own ability to protect you. Gu Mengmeng choked and could not say a word. Snake had worked hard here for 19 years. With the noble bloodline of the royal family, his social status and wealth naturally went without saying. When Leo was in the beast world, he had already learned many years of medical skills through television. He was naturally intelligent and exceptionally gifted in medical skills. She believed that it would not take long for him to achieve outstanding achievements in the medical field. While Elvis, as the first partner in the family, did not have his own career. She had neglected a man's pride. Be it in the beast world or the modern world, living off a woman was a disgrace to a man. But Gu Mengmeng still felt uneasy. Fighting in an underground fight sounded dangerous no matter how she heard it. Elvis smiled and said, I have the power of a beast king. No one in this world can hurt me. Snake placed his hand on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder lightly and said, with the royal family protecting him, no one would dare to make things difficult for him. Leah also swayed his large tail and sat by the bed. He smiled at Gu Mengmeng in the mirror and said, if I really meet a strong opponent one day and get my arms or legs broken, then I can use them for clinical trials. That's pretty good. Alright, the three of them were on the same team. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory, who had not said a word. Gregory only smiled and said, I'm just a guardian beast. I don't have the right to question the first partner's decision. Gu Mengmeng sighed and cupped Elvis's face with both hands. Hubby, you have to promise me not to get hurt. All right. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face and this matter was settled. The next morning, Gu Mengmeng packed her things and headed straight to the hospital to visit Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing. It was not convenient for Elvis and Leah to appear, so Snake and Gregory accompanied her. Out of topic. Chapter 1653. Girl. The moment the door to the ward opened, Bai Lan saw Gu Mengmeng. She immediately threw away the apple she was chewing halfway and opened her arms, waiting for Gu Mengmeng to deliver herself to her. Snake was unwilling but had no choice. He could only let go of Gu Mengmeng and watch as Gu Mengmeng threw herself into someone else's arms. How are you? Does it still hurt? Gu Mengmeng hugged Bai Lan, then pulled a pillow over for her to lean on. Bai Lan laughed heartlessly and said, I'm fine, but he, glancing sideways at Zhang Jinqing, Bai Lan blushed and said, he agreed to my proposal. 2 years later, he will have a graduation certificate on his left hand and a marriage certificate on the right. After taking off his academic robes, he will directly wear a wedding dress. What? Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded and completely out of it. Bai Lan chuckled and said, sorry girl, I might have to abandon you. This man is too stupid. If I don't keep a close eye on him, he will be snatched away by others. So, can you understand me? Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing and said, you are really too much. You are the one, proposing. Why don't you let him do it? Bai Lan glanced at Zhang Jincheng's knees and said, in this lifetime, I will never let him be afraid of his knees touching the ground again. Gu Mengmeng did not understand and turned to look at Snake. Snake said, when those people kidnapped them yesterday, Zhang Jinqing knelt on the ground and used his body to protect Bai Lan. After that, Mo Fan waved the rod in front of you and broke Zhang Jincheng's calf bone. I have already contacted the best doctor and he will be able to walk normally in the future. But when it rains, it will definitely hurt. Gu Mengmeng lowered her eyes and held Bai Lan's hand, saying, Bai Lan, I'm sorry, it's all because of me that you guys have been implicated. Silly girl, what are you saying? Bai Lan pinched Gu Mengmeng. If it wasn't for you, I would never have believed that someone would risk her life for me and not abandon me even under such circumstances. I've been strong for 19 years, and this is the first time I've been protected. Girl, if what I'm often did is related to you, then I should thank you. If it wasn't for this, I might have missed out on the only idiot in my life who values me more than her own life. But Gu Mengmeng looked at Bailan and Zhang Jin Chang's white bandages and felt guilty. Bailan raised her arm and smiled. You're talking about this? Come on, you're so pretentious. I have a bad temper, and I spend more time in the hospital than in the dormitory. This injury is nothing. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. That year, when Bailan was beaten up to the point of asking for her salary, she had said the same thing to her. Gu Mengmeng tugged at Bailan's hand. Since you have decided to get married, you cannot be so hot-tempered in the future. You have to think about your man too, don't you? Without you, what will he do? Bailan glanced at Zhang Jinqing, smiled and said, I understand. Zhang Jinqing, who had remained silent from the start, frowned at Bailan's smile. Bailan, your proposal does not count. Chapter 1654. Gu Mengmeng was really at a loss. Were these two really going to get married? Why did she feel like Bailan was going to snatch an innocent man? Zhang Jinqing was not annoyed. He waited for Bailan to finish yelling before narrowing his eyes. Bailan, you're sitting on my wound. It's a little painful, aw. Bailan was shocked. She immediately stood up from Zhang Jincheng's body and glared down at him. Pain? What pain? You're going to break off the marriage and leave me. Why would I care if it hurts? Although she said that, she did not sit back down. Her careful look was clearly because she was afraid of touching Zhang Jincheng's wound again. Zhang Jinqing seemed to be used to her tough mouth but soft heart. He didn't mind that she was standing high up on his bed and looking down at him. He was willing to look up at her. When I recover, I'll still be the one to propose. Zhang Jinqing said gently. I told you before, I don't have much more than others. But what other women have, I, Zhang Jincheng's wife, cannot lack. Marriage only happens once in a lifetime. You have to make me beg you to marry me. Only then will you have enough confidence to put on airs when you come to my house. If someone in my family makes things difficult for you when I'm not at home, then you can confidently yell, it was your Zhang Jinqing who shamelessly begged me to marry him. Only then will you be unyielding and won't be bullied, understand? Bailan's anger instantly subsided. She cleared her throat and jumped down from Zhang Jincheng's bed. Then, she quietly sat back on the bed and covered herself with the blankets. With a demure expression, she said, if you want to beg, just do it. Why are you so fierce? Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. Zhang Jinqing fierce. From the beginning to the end, the other party had been speaking softly and softly, while Bailan, on the other hand, was like a female bandit, straddling him like she was going to beat him up. I was wrong. I shouldn't have been fierce to you. Zhang Jinqing apologized without any principles. Gu Mengmeng was shocked. In the beast world, it was normal for males to compromise like this. But this was the modern world. Other than saying, I can't do anything if you think that way, and the all-purpose golden phrase, drink more hot water, guys could actually do such things. Io. Gu Mengmeng clutched her forehead and looked at Snake, who had knocked her on the head, her eyes filled with accusation. Snake clenched his teeth and scooped Gu Mengmeng up. The visit is over. Let's go back to school. Ha! Gu Mengmeng protested, didn't you say that with you around, no one would dare to record me for skipping class? I still have to accompany Bailan. What's there to accompany? Does she need you to accompany her? You big third wheel. Snake carried Gu Mengmeng away without giving her a chance to explain. Gu Mengmeng thought about it. Snake was right, he really did not need her to accompany him now. After leaving the hospital, Snake shoved Gu Mengmeng into the car. He did not start the car, but stared at Gu Mengmeng with a dark face, as if he wanted to stare 2 holes into her face. What's wrong? Gu Mengmeng felt guilty for no reason. Are you regretting it? Snake narrowed his eyes. Danger filled the entire carriage. What? Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. Snake said, if I hadn't snatched your love letter back then, Zhang Jinqing would be your boyfriend now, right? Seeing how considerate he is towards Bailan, you regret letting him off, right? Gu Mengmeng held her forehead. The sorrow in her heart flowed like a river. Chapter 1655. Don't play around with your friend's wife. Don't touch your best friend's man. Gu Mengmeng was tired of how her man could not be picky about the brand, origin, year and quality when he got jealous. And Gu Mengmeng's explanation clearly did not satisfy Snake. He squinted his eyes and emitted a dangerous aura. After a while, he suddenly laughed again. With a cold voice, he said, Bailan better be your best friend forever and never break up with Zhang Jinqing, or else I will eat him up. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and only understood Snake's train of thought after a long while. Don't touch my best friend's man, so as long as Zhang Jinqing was still Bailan's man, Gu Mengmeng would never touch him. At the same time, if Zhang Jinqing was no longer Bailan's man, or if Bailan and Gu Mengmeng were no longer best friends, then Gu Mengmeng would touch Zhang Jinqing. Gu Mengmeng sighed. It was really unreasonable to talk to a man who got jealous. Don't worry, my friendship with Bailan will last forever. She and Zhang Jinqing will also grow old together. Snake's lips curled up and he said, I hope so. Bailan and Zhang Jinqing's physique was very good and Snake had specially arranged for the most authoritative doctor from F country to come over. This action alarmed Snake's parents in F country and they called Snake's assistant to find out that Gu Mengmeng had been kidnapped and threatened. They almost fainted from the shock and old mistress cried and wiped her tears, saying that she would arrange for a private jet to fly to S city to bring her precious daughter-in-law back to F country to protect her. Poor parents, although their son was outstanding since young and had a surly and unapproachable character, but he was still their son. After 19 years of coldness, their son finally became more amiable towards them because of this daughter-in-law. God knows how much they treasured this daughter-in-law. Afterwards, Snake sent a video call to his family with a cold face and told them clearly that, don't come. Old mistress was about to cry but Gu Mengmeng snatched Snake's phone and coaxed her gently, saying that she was really fine and not to worry. She even promised to fly to F country to see them once the holidays started. Only then did she finally calm down. After more than 2 months, Bailan and Zhang Jinqing finally left the hospital. It was said that it would take 100 days for one's bones and tendons to recover, but Zhang Jinqing had played basketball since he was young, so his physique was much better than the average person. Of course, he could not be compared to perverts like Elvis and Snake. They were not human. The doctor said that Zhang Jinqing could walk normally with this leg, but he definitely couldn't touch basketball anymore. Jumping and other strenuous activities could not be done again. In the future, he would have to pay special attention to his health and not get hurt again. Then, 2 months later, Gu Mengmeng received a call from Zhang Jinqing out of the blue. Without saying anything, he shamelessly begged her to keep Bailan in the dormitory for the next 3 days and not let her go out. Then, at 8 p.m., he had to bring her to the basketball court. Gu Mengmeng frowned, realizing that things were not so simple. After experiencing so many things in the beast world, Zhang Jinqing's thoughts were really too obvious. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.